Hello, welcome back to Sewist. I'm so happy you're here today. Before we jump in, if you like to stay organized with your sewing projects, make sure you grab my sewing project planner, digital printable download from my Etsy shop. I use it to plan out this entire make, from fabric, measurements, from adjustments to the pattern to costs. It kept me organized, and it makes such a difference when you're sewing with intention. And today we're sewing this long sleeve twist front top using the Sadie pattern from Viki Sews. This is actually my first time using this brand, and overall I found the pattern and the instructions very straightforward and very easy to understand. Also, it was a really great way for me to practice darts on knit fabrics. I don't know how many darts I did on this project, but it was nice to get that practice in. I really appreciated that. There's a couple of quick fit notes before we get started. I noticed when I made my mock-up, the fit was a little tight in the armhole area and the sleeves were short. I have long arms, so I usually add 4 inches to all of my sleeves when I'm doing any type of store-bought pattern. I did notice too that the shirt was also a little bit short, so I did adjust the sleeves. I forgot to adjust the overall top, the bottom hem of the garment, so I didn't do any hems on the sleeves or on the bottom hem. I definitely recommend sizing up if you want a little bit more comfort and movability in your arm pit area. I just found it was kind of tight, but yeah, I always say do a mock-up first so you can get a feel of the entire pattern, the instructions, the flow. And I did my mock-up first and realized I needed to go a size up. For this project, you will need about 1.5 yards of a stretchy knit fabric, 3/8 of an inch of clear elastic, and you'll need matching thread. If you love elevated basics that look high-end but are very doable, this is the make for you, okay? I absolutely love this top. I need it in all colors. So yeah, I think you'll like this one. Let's get started. Here I'm adding 4 inches to the hem of the sleeve. I did this for both front and back sleeve pieces. If you are doing this, don't forget to add the notches like on the original pattern, which is about 2 centimeters from the hem edge. I used 1.5 yards of ITY knit fabric for this project. I did pre-wash my fabric on cold and hung it to dry to pre-shrink it. Don't skip this step or your top will shrink after the first wash. Trust me, I know from experience. All right, after cutting out your pattern and making the necessary adjustments, it's time to cut out the fabric pieces. Transfer all the markings to the fabric pieces. I'm using my Madame Sew Tailor's chalk marker to transfer the darts. Let's get into the pieces. First, we have the front piece, the top front pieces, the back pieces, the back sleeves, and the front sleeves. Starting with the front piece, match the dart legs on the wrong side of the fabric. Pin in place. While pinning, check the other side of the dart to make sure the pin is aligned with the leg marking. Repeat for the other dart. Let's take it to the machine using a straight stitch. You want to back stitch at the underbust edge only, which is the wide part of the dart. Tie the thread tails at the dart point into a knot. I tied about 3 knots. Then you want to cut the thread tails. Next, press the darts towards the center front. Take the clear elastic and align it with the top edge of the front piece on the wrong side. I use clips to keep the elastic in place. You can use a straight basting stitch. For whatever reason, I decided to use a zigzag stitch. Either will work just fine. Before sewing, you just want to make sure the darts are facing each other towards the center of the front. Alright, let's work on the top front pieces. Like we did for the darts on the front piece, we want to match up the dart legs on the wrong sides of the top front pieces. Pin that in place. Take it to the machine and backstitch at the underbust only. Tie the thread tails at the darts into knots, then cut the thread tails. Next, press the darts flat. Measure 1 centimeter from the dart seam towards the dart fold, then trim that extra dart width. Press the darts on one of the top front pieces to the left and press the darts on the other front piece to the right. Now let's work on the darts for the back pieces. Match up the dart legs on the wrong side of the back piece, pin in place. Take it to the machine and make sure you don't backstitch. You want to leave the thread tails long at the beginning and ends of the dart. Tie the thread tails at the dart points into a knot, then cut the tails off. Press the darts flat. Then press the darts towards the center back edge. With right sides together, align the back pieces at the center back edges. Match the notches and pin in place. Take it to the machine and sew. You can use a serger to sew the edges together, but I'll be using a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. The seam allowance for all of the edges for this project is 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter, except for the sleeves and garment hems. Press the seam flat. Then press the seam allowance towards the right back piece. If you're using a serger, serge the center front edges of the front sleeve pieces. If not, you can go to the next step. Place the front sleeve pieces with right sides together, align the center front edges, and pin in place. Using a straight stitch, sew, making sure to backstitch at the beginning and end. Press the seam flat. Then press the seam allowances open and then press them down with a tailor's clapper. Place the front and back sleeve pieces right sides together, align the upper edges and match the notches and pin in place. Take it to the machine to sew. Press the seam flat, then press the seam allowances toward the front sleeve piece. Place the back sleeve and back pieces right sides together, align the armhole opening and sleeve cap edges, match the notches, and pin in place. Take it to the machine and sew. Press the seam flat and then press the seam allowances towards the back sleeve piece. Stay stitch along the neckline about 1 centimeter away from the edge. Use a 4 millimeter stitch length. Using Tailor's chalk, mark a guiding line 2 centimeters or 3/4 of an inch below the neckline edge on the wrong side of the fabric. Fold the neckline seam allowance to the wrong side, align the neckline edge with the guiding line, and pin that in place. Hand baste about 1/4 of an inch away from the raw edge. Press the seam allowance and then press it down with the tailor's clapper. Here I'm switching out my stretch needle for a twin needle. For the next step, you'll need to use a cover stitch machine. Instead, I'll use a stretch twin needle on my machine. Using my twin needle and working with the right side of the garment, I'm stitching 1 centimeter away from the fold of the neckline. Then remove the basting and stay stitching threads. On the wrong side of the front sleeve, mark a guiding line 2 centimeters away from the raglan edge. Extend the line past the notches by 1.5 centimeters on each side. Fold the seam allowance along the raglan edge to the wrong side, align the raw edge with the guiding line, and pin in place. Hand baste about 1/4 of an inch away from the raw edge, tapering the seam allowance to nothing beyond the notches. Press the seam allowance and then press it down with a tailor's clapper. Working from the right side of the garment, I'm using my stretch twin needle to stitch the raglan edge 1 centimeter away from the fold, extending the stitching line past the notches by 1.5 centimeters on each side. Remove the basting stitches, then press the seams. Grab the top front pieces and place them right sides together. Align the long edges. Match the notches and pin all the way up to the sleeve notch. Using a straight stitch, sew and be sure to backstitch at the beginning and end of the seam. Press the seams flat. Press the seam allowances open. Turn the top front piece right side out. Press the seam allowances with the seam right on the edge. Place the top front and front sleeve pieces right sides together. Align the armhole edges. Match the notches and pin in place. Hand baste. Place the top front pieces right sides together, placing the front sleeve piece between them. Match the notches and pin in place. Take to the machine and sew together using a straight stitch, starting right where we finish the top front seam, making sure to backstitch at the beginning and the end. Remove the basting stitches. Press the seam flat. Press the seam allowance open. Turn the garment right side out. Press the seam allowances of the top front piece with the seam right on the edge. Spread out the garment and pass the top front piece through the neckline beneath the front sleeves, then fold it over the neckline. Turn the assembled top front piece to the wrong side partially. Place the right side of the top front piece to the wrong side of the front sleeve, aligning the armhole edges. Match the notches and pin in place. Then hand baste. Place the top front pieces right sides together, placing the front sleeve piece between them. Match the notches and pin. Sew on the machine using a straight stitch, backstitching at the beginning and the end. Place the top front pieces wrong sides together, aligning the side and underbust edges. Match the waist darts and pin in place. Baste about 1/4 inch away from the edges using a 5mm stitch length. Our top is coming together. I love this part when it's starting to look like whatever it is you're intending to make. So next we'll place the top, front, and front pieces right sides together, align their underbust edges, match the notches and waist darts, pin in place. Sew the pieces together. I'll be using a zigzag stitch. If you're using a serger, when stitching along the cutout, finish the raw underbust edge of the front with the same seam. Working on the right side, top stitch the cutout edge using a basting stretch stitch near the fold to secure the seam allowance in place. Don't backstitch. Press the seam flat and then press the seam allowances towards the front piece. Turn the garment to the wrong side. Align the sleeves, underarm edges, and the side edges of the garment, matching the notches and the sleeve cap seams. Pin in place. Take it to the machine. I'll be using a zigzag stitch. Press the seam flat, then press the seam allowances towards the back and back sleeve. And that's it. As I mentioned in the intro, I did not hem the sleeve edges or the bottom of the top. If you have any questions about that, leave them in the comments below. I absolutely love this top. It's so girls night out coated. It came out so well. Here's the mock version I made in black. As you can see, the sleeves are very short. I love the adjustments I made. I really need to make this shirt in all colors. Drop some love below or any questions you may have. If you have any recommendations for my future videos, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.